The quantum interference patterns on Dr. Sarah Chen's holographic display shouldn't have been there. She had spent the last 6 months calibrating Earth's new deep space monitoring array to filter out background radiation, yet these patterns kept emerging with stubborn regularity. As she stood in the dimly lit control room of the Sentinel station, orbiting silently above Earth's northern hemisphere, her dark eyes narrowed at the data streaming across multiple screens. Running diagnostic sequence 47, she murmured into her tablet, her voice steady despite the growing excitement in her chest. The massive array of quantum sensors, stretching across 100 kilometers of space, hummed with invisible energy as it scanned the depths between stars. The patterns appeared again, more distinct this time. They weren't random. They couldn't be. Sarah's fingers flew across the holographic interface, applying new filtering algorithms she had developed specifically for this moment. The background noise of space fell away, leaving behind something that made her breath catch in her throat. Dr. Chen, her assistant director, James Morrison, appeared in the doorway, his formal uniform contrasting with her casual research attire. The Defense Council is asking about the quarterly report. They're wondering if the 10 billion credits spent on this array was worth. He stopped, noticing her intent focus on the displays. What are you seeing? Sarah didn't answer immediately. She couldn't. The implications of what she was looking at were too vast, too profound to put into words without absolute certainty. After another moment of verification, she finally spoke. They think they're invisible, James. They think no one can see them. Who thinks they're invisible? James crossed the room, his reflection ghosting across the curved window that looked out into the star-filled void. Sarah gestured at the central display, where the quantum interference patterns had resolved into something more coherent. Look at these signal variations. They're not natural. They're encrypted communications, millions of them crossing between the stars. We're seeing a galaxy-wide communication network that nobody was supposed to be able to detect. James leaned closer, his skepticism evident in the furrow of his brow. That's impossible. Our quantum detection technology is brand new. If there's an alien communication network out there, why hasn't anyone else detected it? Because they're not using standard transmission methods, Sarah explained, pulling up additional data streams. They're using quantum entanglement channels that should be undetectable. The only reason we can see them is because of an accident, a flaw in our array's design that I spent months trying to correct. We're picking up quantum echo signatures that even they don't know they're leaving behind. The implication slowly dawned on James's face. You're saying there's an advanced alien civilization out there, communicating across the galaxy, and they have no idea we can see them. Sarah nodded, her heart racing with equal parts excitement and fear. Not just one civilization. Based on the signal density and distribution, we're looking at an entire alliance or empire. And they're active in our region of space. She pulled up a three-dimensional map of the local stellar neighborhood. Countless lines of communication crisscrossed the void, forming a complex web of interaction that Earth sat on the very edge of. We need to alert the Council, James said, reaching for his communication device. Sarah caught his wrist, stopping him. Wait, this is our advantage, maybe our only one. These signals, they're not just communications. They're overconfident, sloppy. They're leaving data exposed that they never thought anyone could access. She highlighted one particular stream of quantum echoes. Look at this. They're discussing expansion plans, military movements. They don't even bother encrypting it heavily because they believe quantum entanglement communication is undetectable. James's eyes widened as he processed the implications. They don't know we exist. Oh, they know we exist. Sarah corrected him, pulling up another data stream. They've been watching us. But look at how they describe Earth. She translated one of the intercepted messages. Primitive technological civilization. Pre-FTL. Minimal defensive capabilities. Recommended for standard integration protocol. A chill ran down James's spine. Standard integration protocol. Sarah's expression hardened. Based on the contextual data I've decoded, it's their euphemism for conquest. They've done this before, many times. They wait until a civilization reaches a certain technological threshold, then strike before they can develop effective defenses. They think we're decades away from being able to detect them, let alone resist them. But we can see them, James said slowly, beginning to understand. We can see everything they're doing. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Exactly. Their overconfidence is our opportunity. Every quantum echo we detect tells us more about their technology, their methods, their weaknesses. They think they're studying a primitive civilization, but we're the ones doing the real observation. She turned to face James fully, her expression intense. We need to bring this to the council, but carefully. What we do with this information in the next few months could determine the survival of our species. We need to build our defenses without letting them know we can see them coming. We need to prepare for a war while pretending we don't even know what interstellar travel is. James looked out at the vast array stretching across space, its quantum sensors silently gathering intelligence on an enemy that thought itself invisible. How long do we have? Sarah pulled up one final data stream, her expression grim. Based on their communication patterns, they're planning something big. Multiple fleet movements, resource consolidation. I'd say we have 8 months, maybe a year before they make their move. A year to prepare for an invasion by an advanced alien civilization, James mused, while pretending we're still debating whether aliens exist at all. Sarah's determination showed in the set of her jaw. Then we better make every day count. Humanity's greatest advantage has always been our ability to adapt, to see opportunities where others see limitations. They think they're watching a primitive species taking its first steps into space. Instead, they're watching humanity quietly prepare for the greatest technological leap in our history. As if to emphasize her words, another quantum echo appeared on the main display. More alien ships moving into position at the edge of their solar system, their crews completely unaware that their supposedly undetectable movements were being monitored by the very primitives they planned to conquer. In the reflection of the window, Sarah could see the distant stars, and somewhere among them, humanity's future adversaries watching Earth with dismissive confidence. They would learn, too late, that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one you've already underestimated. Admiral Marcus Rivera stood in the underground chamber of Project Aegis, 3 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean floor. The vast circular room hummed with the energy of quantum processors, their crystalline matrices casting a soft blue glow across the assembled faces of Earth's most brilliant minds. Dr. Chen's discovery 6 months ago had changed everything, and humanity's response had been anything but primitive. "Show me the latest simulation," Rivera commanded, his voice carrying the weight of authority earned through decades of service. The holographic display at the center of the chamber sparkled to life, showing a 3-dimensional representation of the solar system. Red dots indicated the positions of alien observation posts. Their numbers had tripled in the past month. Dr. Chen stepped forward, her usual lab coat replaced by a formal uniform bearing the newly created Aegis Division insignia. "The quantum masking field is ready for testing, Admiral. If it works as designed, we can hide an entire fleet in plain sight." She manipulated the display, showing a cluster of green points representing Earth's defensive preparations. "As far as their sensors are concerned, we're still arguing about whether to build a permanent base on Mars." Rivera nodded, studying the tactical overlay. The aliens' arrogance had given humanity an unprecedented advantage. Every transmission they thought was secure had been intercepted, analyzed, and used to advance Earth's technological understanding by decades. The quantum communication network they believed was undetectable had become humanity's greatest intelligence source. "Dr. Wang, status of the phase shift weapons." Rivera turned to the quantum physics expert who had helped develop Earth's new defense systems. Dr. Wang, a slight man with intense eyes, brought up technical schematics on a secondary display. "We've successfully reversed engineered their quantum entanglement principles. The prototype weapons can bypass conventional shields by shifting partially out of normal spacetime. They won't expect it because, according to their intelligence, we're still experimenting with nuclear fusion. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the room. The aliens' dismissal of humanity as a primitive species had led them to be careless with their technology, leaving quantum echoes and signature traces that Earth's scientists had painstakingly decoded. Every day that they continued to underestimate humanity was another day for Earth to prepare. General Santos, how are the orbital platforms progressing? Rivera directed his attention to the Space Force commander. The general's hologram flickered as she reported from the lunar construction facility. We've completed 37 platforms, all hidden beneath quantum masking fields. They look like communication satellites to any observer, but each one carries enough firepower to disable a capital ship. The aliens' latest scans show they're still classifying them as primitive radio relay stations. Rivera allowed himself a grim smile. The deception was working perfectly. Earth's defensive grid was growing stronger by the day, all while appearing to be nothing more than the fumbling attempts of a pre-spacefaring civilization. The aliens' own technology had been turned against them, modified and improved by human ingenuity. Dr. Chen, you have concerns. Rivera noticed the scientist's troubled expression as she studied the tactical display. The aliens are accelerating their timeline, she reported, highlighting several communication intercepts. They're gathering a larger fleet than we anticipated. I think they're planning to use Earth as an example to other emerging civilizations in this sector. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Their enemies weren't just planning a conquest. They were planning to make a statement. Earth would be a demonstration of their power, a warning to any other species that might think of resisting. How long? Rivera's question cut through the tension. Based on fleet movements and supply line patterns, 3 months at most. They're bringing ships from 12 different sectors. Dr. Chen's hands moved across the display, showing the convergence of alien forces. They're assembling an armada large enough to conquer a dozen worlds. Rivera straightened, his decision made. Then we give them exactly what they're expecting, right up until the moment we don't. Dr. Wong, accelerate production of the phase shift weapons. General Santos, I want those platforms ready to deploy on my command. Dr. Chen, keep monitoring their communications. I want to know the moment they commit to their attack plan. The Admiral turned to address the entire chamber. They think they're being clever, gathering an overwhelming force to crush a primitive civilization. They don't realize they're actually giving us exactly what we need. All of their most powerful ships, gathered in one place, completely unaware of what we're capable of. The tactical display updated again, showing new alien vessels arriving at the staging area beyond Saturn's orbit. Each ship they added to their fleet was another piece of data for Earth's quantum sensors to analyze, another set of weaknesses to catalog and exploit. Humanity has always been at its best when underestimated, Rivera continued. Throughout our history, we've faced opponents who thought their superior technology or numbers guaranteed victory. They all learned the same lesson. It's not the strength of your weapons that matters most. It's how you use them. The assembled leaders nodded in agreement. Earth's greatest advantage wasn't just the technology they'd developed. It was the fact that their enemies had no idea it existed. The aliens would arrive expecting to find a helpless primitive world, ripe for conquest. Instead, they would face an opponent who had spent months studying their every weakness, preparing countermeasures for their every tactic. 3 months, Rivera mused, watching the holographic ships gather for their invasion. 3 months to perfect our deception and prepare our surprise. Let's make sure it's one they never forget. The alien armada dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their massive ships casting long shadows across the void. In the Aegis Command Center, Admiral Rivera watched as over 3,000 vessels materialized on the quantum tracking display. Their energy signatures blazed like newborn stars against the darkness of space, each one representing enough firepower to level a continent. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Dr. Chen reported, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Standard intimidation package, translated into every major Earth language. They want to make sure we understand exactly how doomed we are. Rivera nodded, his expression unchanged. Let's hear it. The alien commander's voice filled the command center, speaking in perfectly accented English. People of Earth, we are the collective. Your civilization has been deemed suitable for integration into our empire. Resistance is not advised. Your technological level has been assessed, and you have no weapons capable of harming our vessels. Surrender now, and your species will be preserved as productive members of our society. Tactical analysis, Rivera asked, though he already knew the answer. They had spent months studying the collective's ship designs through quantum echoes. The alien fleet's formation began to break apart as ships maneuvered to face threats they couldn't properly track. Their confidence shattered, they fell back on standard combat protocols, which Earth had spent months studying and countering. All units, Rivera commanded, execute full deployment. Show them exactly what a primitive civilization can do when you give it time to prepare. The space around Earth lit up as humanity's full defensive grid revealed itself. The aliens were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one you've taught all your weaknesses to. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the quantum readings with growing excitement as the battle raged across the solar system. While Admiral Rivera coordinated Earth's military response, she had noticed something in the collective's communication patterns, something that could change everything. Their ships weren't just coordinating. They were thinking as one, their responses too perfectly synchronized for individual commanders. Admiral, she called out, transferring her findings to the main tactical display. I've isolated their command and control structure. It's not hierarchical like we assumed. They're using quantum entanglement for direct neural linkage. Their entire fleet operates as a single consciousness. Rivera studied the new data as reports of the battle continued to flood in. Earth's phase shift weapons had devastated the collective's front lines, but the remaining ships were adapting, their movements becoming more coordinated with each passing minute. They're learning from their losses, he observed. The Hive is analyzing our weapons and developing countermeasures. Yes, but that's their weakness. Sarah's fingers flew across her console as she refined her analysis. Their neural network achieves perfect coordination by suppressing individual thought. Every ship, every commander experiences the same thoughts, the same reactions. They can't conceive of solutions the Hive hasn't approved. On the tactical display, the battle's tide began to shift. The alien fleet was recovering from its initial shock, its remaining ships moving with impossible precision. Their adaptation to Earth's phase shift weapons was impressive. Ships now moved in complex patterns that minimized their exposure, while their weapons fired from multiple angles to overwhelm the quantum platform's defenses. Multiple platforms down, General Santos reported, her hologram flickering with static. They're using some kind of quantum resonance attack. Our masking fields can't compensate fast enough. Rivera watched as more of Earth's defensive grid went dark. The aliens' hive mind had analyzed their technology and found a counter. If this continued, they would eventually overwhelm Earth's defenses through sheer computational efficiency. Dr. Chen, you said this is their weakness. Explain. Sarah nodded, pulling up new diagrams. Their neural network is incredibly powerful, but it has to maintain quantum coherence across thousands of ships. They achieve this by making every connected mind think alike. It's why they're so dismissive of primitive species. They literally cannot think outside their established patterns. And how does this help us? Rivera demanded as another platform went dark. Because we're not connected to their network. Sarah's eyes gleamed with revelation. We can think thoughts they can't. Their entire civilization is built on the idea that collective consciousness is superior to individual thought. But look at how they handle our attacks. Every ship responds the same way, using the same countermeasures. There's no creativity, no individual initiative. Dr. Wong spoke up from his station, understanding dawning on his face. We could use that. Their quantum network has to maintain strict patterns to function. If we could inject chaos into their system. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. Their neural link is based on the same quantum principles we reversed engineered for our weapons. With some modifications, we could turn our remaining platforms into quantum disruptors. Not to destroy their network, but to make them think for themselves, Rivera finished, grasping the strategy. General Santos, how many platforms do we have left? 23 still operational, sir, but we're losing them fast. Rivera's decision was immediate. Dr. Chen, you have authorization. Make it happen. He turned to address the command center. All units, fall back to secondary positions. Concentrate fire on these coordinates. We need to give Dr. Chen time to implement her modifications. The next 30 minutes were tense as Sarah and her team worked to reprogram the quantum platforms. The alien fleet pressed their advantage, their coordinated attacks growing more precise as the hive mind refined its combat algorithms. But they never deviated from their established patterns, never tried anything truly unexpected. Modifications complete, Sarah announced. Quantum disruption fields ready on remaining platforms. But sir, she hesitated. This will be temporary. Once they realize what we're doing, they'll adapt their network protocols. Then we make those moments count, Rivera said firmly. All units, prepare for synchronized attack on my mark. Doctor, target their command ships first. Let's see how their perfect coordination handles a little human chaos. The order was given, and 23 quantum platforms activated their disruption fields simultaneously. To the alien fleet, it must have felt like waking from a dream. For the first time in their civilization's history, the hive mind flickered, and thousands of individual consciousnesses suddenly had to think for themselves. The effect was immediate and devastating. Ships that had been moving in perfect formation suddenly scattered in confusion. Coordinated attack patterns broke apart as individual commanders tried to process the situation with their own minds rather than the collective's guidance. Some ships opened fire at random, while others froze in place, their crews paralyzed without the hive's direction. It's working, Sarah breathed, watching the tactical display. Their neural network is fragmenting. Each disruption creates a cascade effect, forcing more minds to operate independently. Rivera didn't waste the opportunity. All units, engage at will. Show them what human creativity can do. Earth's remaining forces struck with devastating efficiency, but now each commander attacked in their own way, using tactics and strategies the enemy couldn't predict because they weren't coordinated. Some ships executed complex flanking maneuvers, while others engaged in direct confrontations. The aliens, used to facing enemies that could be understood and countered by their collective consciousness, had no defense against the chaos of individual human ingenuity. Their fleet is breaking apart, General Santos reported, unable to keep the satisfaction from her voice. Multiple ships attempting to retreat, others continuing to fight, but without coordination. The alien commander's voice crackled through the calm once more, but this time it was different. Individual, uncertain, almost afraid. What have you done to us? The network. We cannot think as one. No, Rivera responded calmly. For the first time in your history, you're thinking for yourselves. Consider it a lesson in the value of individuality. The battle wasn't over. There were still thousands of alien ships in the solar system. But as Sarah watched them struggle to operate without their neural network, she knew humanity had discovered something profound. The collective's greatest strength had been turned into their greatest weakness, all because they couldn't understand that true strength comes from embracing different ways of thinking, not suppressing them. 3 days after the battle began, Admiral Rivera stood on the observation deck of the Aegis Command Center, watching the cleanup operations through the reinforced windows. Debris from destroyed ships dotted Earth's orbit like artificial stars, while recovery vessels, both human and alien, worked to clear the spaceways. The remaining collective ships hung in high orbit, their crews still struggling to adapt to individual consciousness after centuries of hive mind control. Final casualty reports, sir, General Santos said, approaching with a data tablet. We lost 16 platforms total, 4 orbital defense stations, and 2 surface installations. Collective losses. She paused, double-checking the figures. Approximately 60% of their invasion fleet destroyed or disabled. The rest have either surrendered or retreated beyond the solar system. Rivera nodded, his expression thoughtful. And Dr. Chen's project? She's waiting for you in the quantum lab. Says she's made a breakthrough in understanding their neural technology. The quantum lab had changed in the past few days. Captured alien technology now sat alongside human equipment, their systems interfaced through adapters that Dr. Chen's team had developed. Sarah stood at the central console, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept much since the battle ended. The quantum lab had changed in the past few days. Captured alien technology now sat alongside human equipment, their systems interfaced through adapters that Dr. Chen's team had developed. Sarah stood at the central console, dark circles under her eyes suggesting she hadn't slept much since the battle ended. Admiral, she greeted him, not looking up from her work. Remember how they called us primitive? Look at this. She gestured to a holographic display showing neural pattern analyses. Their quantum network wasn't just for communication. It was their entire civilization's foundation. They believed that perfect unity of thought was the pinnacle of evolution. And now we've shattered that unity, Rivera observed. Not shattered, Sarah corrected. Freed. Watch this. She brought up a live feed from one of the surrendered ships. The alien crew members were moving with less coordination than before, but their actions showed something new. Initiative, creativity, even disagreement. They're learning to think independently again. Some of them are even asking to maintain the disruption fields. They don't want to rejoin the hive mind. Fascinating. A new voice joined them. Dr. Wong entered the lab, carrying fresh data from the alien ships. But that's not the most interesting part. Show him what you found in their historical records. Sarah nodded, pulling up another display. The collective wasn't always a hive mind. They developed the neural network technology millennia ago, believing it would create a perfect society. But look at their rate of technological advancement. She showed a graph where progress slowed dramatically after the network's implementation. Once they started thinking as one, they stopped innovating. Every new idea had to be approved by consensus, and you can't have consensus when truly new thoughts challenge established patterns. Which explains why they were so dismissive of us, Rivera realized. Their collective consciousness couldn't conceive of different ways of thinking being valuable. Exactly. And now, Sarah brought up communications intercepted from beyond the solar system. Other species they've conquered are learning what happened here. The quantum disruption technology is spreading. The collective's empire isn't just facing military defeat, it's facing an ideological revolution. Rivera studied the data thoughtfully. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just defended Earth. They'd unintentionally sparked a transformation that could reshape galactic civilization. What are they saying about us now? That's the most remarkable part, Dr. Wong interjected, showing messages translated from various alien languages. They're not calling us primitive anymore. Some are calling us liberators. The species that proved diversity is strength. A communication request flashed on the main screen. One of the surrendered ships was asking to speak with Earth's leadership. Rivera nodded to Sarah, who accepted the transmission. The alien commander appeared on screen, their crystalline features arranged in what humans had learned was an expression of respect. Admiral Rivera, the alien spoke, its voice carrying individual inflections that would have been impossible under hive mind control. Our crew has reached a consensus, not through neural linkage, but through discussion and debate. We request asylum. Rivera raised an eyebrow. Asylum. We do not wish to return to the collective. For the first time in generations, we can think our own thoughts, make our own choices, Others feel the same. Your quantum disruption technology. It is not a weapon. It is liberation. Sarah stepped forward. You understand we can't give you the technology. Not until we're certain how it will be used. The alien commander's features shifted, and what they'd learned was a smile. Of course, we would expect nothing less from the species that turned our own overconfidence against us. But perhaps we can offer something in exchange. Knowledge, technology, diplomatic connections with other independent worlds. Independent worlds? Rivera questioned. Yes, not all species accepted integration into the collective. Some chose isolation rather than surrender their individuality. We know where they are, how to contact them. Perhaps humanity could serve as a bridge, helping us learn to be individuals again while protecting others from forced integration. Rivera glanced at Sarah, who nodded subtly. This was an opportunity not just for humanity, but for all species who valued independent thought. We would need guarantees, he said carefully. Proof that your crew's desire for independence is genuine. Already prepared, the commander responded, transmitting a data packet. Personal statements from each crew member, recorded separately, expressing their own thoughts rather than collective consensus. We are learning to be individuals again, thanks to you. Let us help others do the same. As Sarah reviewed the data, her expression grew excited. Admiral, these statements, they're all different. Unique perspectives, personal hopes, individual fears. This isn't just diplomatic talk. They're really thinking for themselves. Rivera turned back to the alien commander. Your request for asylum is granted, pending final approval from Earth's leadership. But understand this, Earth will not be your new collective. We won't tell you how to think or what to believe. That's the whole point. We understand, the commander replied. That is why we choose Earth. You prove that true strength comes from embracing different ways of thinking, not enforcing unity. The species we dismissed as primitive showed us a better way forward. As the transmission ended, Rivera looked out at the Earth below, its blue expanse peaceful despite the orbital debris being cleared above. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but as a catalyst for change throughout the galaxy. They had proved that being underestimated could be the greatest advantage of all. Dr. Chen, he said finally, I believe we have work to do. There are other species out there who need to know they're not alone in choosing freedom of thought over enforced unity. Sarah nodded, already pulling up star charts showing the locations of independent worlds. Yes, sir. And this time, when we venture out there, no one will make the mistake of calling us primitive. The stars beckoned through the observation window, no longer just distant lights but bridges to new allies and new possibilities. Humanity had defended its right to think differently, and in doing so, had given that same right back to others. The age of the collective was ending. The age of diversity was about to begin.